I've always wanted to make my own furniture, but at the moment my workshop is a desk in my study, so I might have to scale down my ambitions a bit. You see, I've made myself some little pocket notebooks, but I don't have a good place to keep them when they're not in my pocket, so they just sort of end up lying around. So I want to build myself a mini bookcase for my mini notebooks. Since this will be my first go at making furniture, I'm stepping it up from pallet wood, and instead I've found some gross old floorboards to work with. As you can see, it's tongue and groove, but I'll actually be able to use this to my advantage, as you'll see in a little bit. I'm not exactly sure what type of wood this is, but it's definitely a hardwood. I'll save you all the grunts and groans, but off camera I managed to slice the board into some thinner planks and cut them to the lengths I needed. The first few slices came out pretty wonky, but thankfully I don't need all of these shorter pieces, and all that practice meant I was cutting a lot better by the time I got to the longer bits. These long pieces will make up the sides and back of the bookcase, and using the remnants of the tongue and groove, I've got a nice little recess for the back panel that I would have really struggled to make on my own. With the pieces laid out, you can see what we're aiming for. A nice little bookcase with 3 shelves, just big enough for my notebooks. The wood is still in really rough shape though, so again off camera I put in a few hours of hand sanding to get rid of the grimy exterior and all of the cut marks, and they came out looking like a treat. With all the stock finally prepared, I can move on to some actual building, and the first step was to cut all the shelves to the same length, or as near as I could get it. This revealed that my back panels were too wide, so with even more sawing I could rip them down to the width I needed. I'd clearly gotten way too cocky in my ability to cut straight lines because I was all over the place. I had to keep restarting the cut to stay on track, but I eventually had them at the right width. This meant I could glue them together to form a single wide board. I've never done a glue up like this before, but I'd heard it's a good idea to clamp the joint to stop it from buckling, but it wasn't really helping, so I eventually just chucked another board over the joint, and that helped it dry flat. Well, I think that could have gone a lot better, I think. I think I also probably didn't film it very well. We'll find out. The glue up went well, which is good, except that it now means that I have to do the task that I was kind of putting off, which is actually putting the shelving unit together. I'm just a bit nervous about trying to get everything to line up properly. So I guess though the only way to do it is to just do it. Actually, on that note, wait for it. Yeah, I think Amelia Earhart is right. I just got to go for it. So that's what I'm going to do. I think actually this is what I was nervous for. I'm going to have to be very careful with the drilling here so that I don't come out the side. While you watch me do my best drill press impersonation, I just want to say a massive thank you to the channel members for all their support. All the funds go towards making these videos for you and keeping them sponsor free, and it means so much to me, so again, thank you. Also, if you haven't seen my community posts, which might be because you're not subscribed, I've set up a Discord server where we can chat about projects and just hang out. There's a link in the description if you're interested. It was literally the last hole. I'm amazed that this is the only one, but yeah. I'll just make this the bottom at the back and it'll all be grand. So I've drilled these all out with a 1.5mm, but I was thinking of maybe going back with a 2mm bit, because I think something that's going to fit into a 1.5mm hole is going to be quite flimsy. So if I just make it a little bit bigger, hopefully I can get something a bit more sturdy into these. I think I would be a bit more comfortable if it was just that little bit bigger. Obviously, while enlarging those holes, I can't believe I didn't think of this, another hole blew out. So I've got 2 blowouts now. I can easily hide one of them. I'm just going to put this other shelf with this blowout bit as a second shelf. So yeah, hopefully it'll be nice and tucked away, hidden in this little back corner, and no one will see it. But now I've got to try and transfer all of the holes from the individual shelves onto the side pieces, and I honestly have no idea how I'm going to do that, but it kind of is mission critical that they all line up, so we'll see what happens. I just got to go for it again, I think. I think a lot of times my indecision is a product of doing something new. I've never had to try and line up 4 shelves before, and so I end up stalling, even though I'm pretty sure I know how to do it. Throwing back to the Amelia Earhart quote, sometimes, especially when you're doing something new, you've just got to push past the uncertainty and just go for it. Either it works out, in which case you beaut, or you've learnt something which is also very helpful, if a little frustrating. Luckily enough for me, in this case, I ended up in the first category. With the holes transferred, I could turn my attention to sanding skewers, which sounds like a euphemism, but it's actually just tedious, dusty work. Well, hey! Got a bottom shelf. Look at that. Hell yeah. Alright, now I just gotta put all of them in as well. So let's get to it. Oh, this is gonna be a bit of a nightmare. I'm gonna glue these like this side in first, I think. Maybe have some lunch and then come back and try and do the other half. Although maybe I should just try and do it all at once. Maybe I'll just try and do it all at once. Although I am quite hungry. Maybe I should have lunch, then come back and do all of this. I guess that's a me decision. You don't need to know that. But I'm gonna go and have lunch, I think. And then we'll try the glue up from hell. After deleting a sandwich and a cup of tea, alright, 2 cups of tea, I had the strength and the mental fortitude to come back and try the glue up. As you'd expect, the first side was a piece of cake, but the second side was incredibly difficult. With the clock ticking before the glue starts to set, I had to adjust a bunch of the pegs and try and get everything to line up, and I just could not get them to fit. Until... there we go. Everything just fell into place. I think that's maybe the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. I had to do some funky clamp work down here to get it all work, because I didn't realise that these... I should have checked, but these clamps aren't long enough to span the whole width, so I had to sort of double them up a bit to make it all work. But I think we got there. I'm just going to let it rest, and we'll come back tomorrow and finish it off. Making things is always such an incredible feeling to me. You start off with just an idea floating around in your brain, then before long it actually exists in the real world. You can see it, you can touch it, and I mean, if you're a little bit freaky, you can even smell it. I don't think this is a feeling that I will ever get sick of. After the glue up, the back panel wasn't quite fitting in, so with my newly sharpened chisels, I could take it down to size. I only recently got the equipment I need to sharpen my chisels, and my god, it makes such a difference. I've shaved half the hair off my arm because I was so excited at getting them razor sharp. You're lucky this isn't a 2-hour video about the wonders of a sharp chisel. Anyway, after getting that to fit, I could take everything away again for a proper sand, down to 120 grit, and it looks amazing. I think I maybe went a little hard though, because the shelves picked up a bit of a wobble. Nothing that a bit of extra glue in the cracks couldn't fix though, and gluing on the back panel will also really help to stiffen it up. After taking care of the glue drips and leveling the bottom, it was time for a coat of oil to finish this thing off, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of this either. If you've never oiled a raw piece of wood before, I can highly recommend it. The camera does not do the transition justice. Now, obviously, this bookcase is a long way from perfection, but that doesn't make me any less proud of it. Sure, there are gaps, rough edges and whatnot, but I built it with my own 2 hands. Hopefully one day I'll be able to make things that don't have those gaps and rough edges, but to get to that point, I've got to put in the hours, and that's what this represents. I kind of like to think of it as a bit of a time capsule, a representation of where my skills are currently at, and something I'll, hopefully, be able to look back on and see just how far I've come. But right now, this represents my best effort, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. To think it began as a dirty old floorboard, something that a lot of people probably would have just thrown away, to turn that into a functional and I think quite good looking bit of kit, that's such a special feeling. For the moment, the shelves are pretty empty and I'm having to stuff them full of random things that aren't notebooks, but over the coming months, years, even decades, I want to fill this bookcase up with my memories, plans, designs, and everything else that I put into my little notebooks. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.